You're sitting on the couch, phone face up on your knee. And it's been 4 hours since he last texted. You pick it up, put it down, pick it up again. Did I say something wrong? Is he losing interest? Why does he text like it cost him something? Wait, read that last thought again. Because here's the truth almost nobody says out loud. The men who text you the least are sometimes the ones who are the most sure of you. You're not imagining things, and you're not too much. This isn't a sign you did something wrong or that he's pulling away. Every person who's ever fallen for someone confusing has sat exactly where you're sitting right now, staring at a silent screen, trying to translate silence into meaning. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why the quiet ones text less, and how to tell the difference between a man who's confident and a man who's just gone cold. Let's get into it. Most people believe that texting frequency equals emotional investment. More texts, more interest, more love. But the real truth is this. Texting is often a stand-in for something a person doesn't feel yet. Certainty. A man who is sure of you isn't performing reassurance through his phone. He's not narrating his day to prove he's thinking about you, because he already knows you know. His nervous system isn't scanning for your response the way an anxious man's is. He's not refreshing his messages, waiting to feel chosen. What looks like distance is often just regulation. A calm mind doesn't need constant contact to feel connected. It's the anxious mind that reaches for the phone every 10 minutes, not because it's more loving, but because it's more afraid. And once you see this pattern, you'll start noticing it everywhere. In the men who text you a paragraph, and the ones who text you 3 words that somehow feel steadier. Here's where it shows up first. Here's the part no one talks about. The performance trap. Most people think a long text means a man cares more. So when a message comes back short, "Hey, just got out of the gym, talk later," it feels like rejection. But here's what nobody explains. A man who feels secure isn't performing intimacy through language. He's not trying to convince you of anything, because he's not trying to convince himself of anything either. Texting, for an anxious attacher, becomes a way to manage his own discomfort. For a secure man, it's just logistics. Picture this. 2 men, same situation. She hasn't texted back in 3 hours. The anxious one sends a follow-up. Then another. He stares at the delivered under his last message like it owes him an explanation. The secure one puts his phone face down on the counter and keeps cooking dinner. Something in him is saying, she'll respond when she can. I don't need to manage this. And when you stop mistaking performance for presence, you stop chasing the version of connection that was never really connection at all. Here's where it gets really interesting. The certainty signal. Most people assume a slow reply means low priority. But priority and certainty aren't the same thing. Here's what changes everything. A man who's confident doesn't need the text thread to stay warm every hour, because he's not worried. The thread is the relationship. He knows the relationship lives in the room, in the eye contact, in the way you laugh at his dumb joke on a Tuesday. The phone is just a bridge between those moments, not the moment itself. Think about the woman who says, he barely texts during the day, but when we're together, he's fully there. No phone, no distraction, just her. Compare that to the man who texts all day, every day, and then spends your actual dates half present, eyes drifting to notifications. Her brain is quietly registering. He doesn't need to prove it in writing because he proves it in the room. And that's when texting stops being a scoreboard and starts being what it was always supposed to be. A small, unremarkable thread connecting 2 people who already feel safe with each other. This is the one most couples never figure out. The anxiety mirror. Most people believe if they just text more, explain more, reassure more, the uncertainty will go away. But the deeper truth is, reaching harder for someone who's pulling back doesn't create safety, it creates pressure. And pressure is the one thing that makes an avoidant or overwhelmed man retreat further. Not more texts, not longer paragraphs, not double texting to clarify, but space, patience, and the quiet confidence that you don't need to manage someone else's nervous system to feel secure in your own. Picture the difference. One woman sends 4 texts in a row when he goes quiet, each one a little more anxious than the last. Another woman notices the silence, feels the pull to check, and instead puts the phone in another room and calls a friend. That second woman isn't colder, she's just not outsourcing her piece to his response time. And when you stop doing that, something shifts in how people show up for you. Because people move toward calm, and they quietly retreat from urgency. And this is exactly where most people misread the next pattern completely. Here's the part that changes how you read every text after this. The withdrawal disguise. Most people lump every quiet man into the same category, confident and calm. But that's not always true, and this distinction matters more than any other in this video. But here's what nobody explains. There's a difference between a man who texts less because he's secure and a man who texts less because he's avoidant, checked out, or losing interest. They can look identical from the outside. The difference isn't in the silence. It's in what fills the space around it. A confident man's silence is consistent. He's just as warm, just as present, just as reachable when you do talk. An avoidant or fading man's silence comes with something else underneath it. Shorter conversations when you do connect, less curiosity about your life, a subtle flatness that wasn't there before. Picture 2. Good morning texts. One says, "Morning, hope your presentation goes well today, you've got this." The other says, "Morning." Both are short. Only one of them is still choosing you. Something in you will know the difference before your mind catches up to it. That's your nervous system reading tone, not word count. And once you can tell those two silences apart, you stop wasting your energy protecting the wrong one. This is where it gets uncomfortable, in the best way. The self-worth test. Most people think their anxiety about texting is about him. It usually isn't. Here's what changes everything. The panic that rises when a reply is late often has less to do with what he's doing and everything to do with an old, familiar fear that if you're not constantly reassured, you'll be forgotten. That fear didn't start with him. It started long before he ever showed up. Not a communication problem, not a compatibility problem, not something that needs a longer conversation about texting expectations, but an old wound quietly asking a new person to prove it isn't going to happen again. Picture the woman lying awake, phone brightness turned all the way down so she doesn't wake anyone, refreshing a thread that hasn't moved in 6 hours, chasing a feeling that was never actually about the text. If he really cared, he'd make the effort, her mind whispers. But the truth underneath that thought is quieter and older and has nothing to do with him at all. And when you finally address that fear directly, instead of asking him to manage it for you, something in your chest loosens that no amount of texting ever could have fixed. And this last one is the one that changes everything else you just learned. The secure loop. Most people think secure attachment means never feeling anxious about someone. That's not it either. The real truth is, secure connection isn't the absence of the urge to check your phone. It's the ability to feel that urge and not act on it because you trust the relationship exists outside of the thread. Turning toward each other, again and again, in small, unremarkable ways, is what actually builds that trust. Not constant contact, consistent contact. This isn't a trick for texting less to seem more desirable. This is what it looks like when two people have stopped needing the phone to carry the weight the relationship should be carrying on its own. Picture the couple 3 years in. They might go a whole workday without a single message, and neither one panics. Then he walks in the door, and she looks up from what she's doing, actually looks up, and something in the room changes because he's home. That's not distance. That's what safety looks like once it stops needing proof. And when you stop needing the text to feel the connection, and start feeling the connection in the room, in the return, in the everyday, that's when you stop being someone waiting for reassurance and start being someone who already knows. You're back on that couch, phone still face up on your knee. But something's different now. You're not staring at it the same way. You're not translating silence into abandonment anymore, because you know the difference now, between a man who's gone quiet because he's sure and a man who's gone quiet because he's gone. This isn't a checklist for decoding his texting habits. It's an invitation to stop measuring love in message bubbles and start noticing it in the room, in the return, in the way someone looks at you when they walk back through the door. The relationship you want isn't going to be proven in a thread. It's going to be felt, in the ordinary moments no screenshot could ever capture. If you've ever wondered what it actually looks like when someone secure falls for you, not performs it, actually feels it, that's the video I made right after this one. Put the phone down for a minute. Whatever's on the other end of it will still be there, and so will you.